Okay. Well, it is 4 o'clock and other people can join us as they do. Um, this is, of course, for everybody in the group who's joining, as well as the people on YouTube once I post it. The title of our webinar this week is how to close your landscape jobs, the art of selling without feeling salesy. This is something that I really enjoy. Doing the sales side of the business as I've mentioned before, the one thing I could never give up, and it wasn't that I was trying and failing. Although I did hire, salespeople, but it was the one part of the business that I always felt I had the pulse of the customers. Okay, I want to do a couple of housekeeping things to go ahead and get us started first. I've started planning already next week's webinar, which is going to be Leadership is Not a Title, Foundations for Building Your Leadership Style. I figured that this is an opportune time to get this going, as some people will be uh, and are in the process, as some people have told me already, of hiring their crews for the growing season. But it doesn't matter whether you have crews or if it's just you by yourself right now. Learning leadership now in preparation for having a team is going to set you ahead. So I would encourage everybody to come to that. I've also started a new group, a new thing that we're going to try every Friday at 6 p.m. It's just going to be like a coffee clatch type thing. It'll be the crew huddle, celebrate, solve, and succeed. It'll last 30 minutes. You guys can bring your wins or you can bring your challenges and we can talk about them together. That one, it'll be less me doing all the talking. We'll just have everybody on screen and we can just talk about stuff. If you have specific challenges, there's a way in that event that you can see that you can either post it to the event or you can email me, and I will try and cover it during that meeting on Friday. So, like I said, that's a new event that we're going to try out and see how it goes. I'm planning to run it every Friday from 6 to 6:30 in the evening, and like I said, we'll just celebrate. So, the I guess the next question I'm going to ask for the people that are already in here. Um, ha, who here, you can just comment in the messages, has created their marketing plan for this year? Have you done anything to lay out how you anticipate getting new clients this year? So if you just want to leave me a comment in there and we can discuss it, it helps me know where everybody is in the process. If you're following this on YouTube after it's been posted, you're welcome to comment in the comment section, and I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you as well. But really, this is the opportune time to have everything nailed down. Understand, a plan is that just that. It's a plan. It's something that you are going to adjust as time goes on. Some things work, some things don't, but if at least you have a guideline of the direction you want to go, you're setting yourself up for success. So I encourage everybody to do that. A lack of answers in the chat is kind of telling me that maybe we haven't gotten to that yet. You got something, Jim?
Uh,
Okay. Jason says he's got door hangers knocking on doors. Okay. Next door in Facebook. Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. So we are going to go to sharing the screen here, and we will get this opened up. If I can get you guys to mute your mics, I would appreciate it also. Okay. So as I'd said, this is our conversation on closing landscaping jobs, the art of selling without feeling salesy. Okay. Anybody nervous? Here you can just jump in and speak on your microphones. It, who is nervous about selling or just, they feel it's like the absolute worst part of their job for them? Anybody? No? Okay, that's good. So why sales do feel uncomfortable to people. There's a fear of rejection because nobody likes to hear no. It can feel personal. instead of business. And we always remember, from the mafia movies and everything. Oh, it's never personal. It's always business. But being told no, it can feel, very bad for you personally. Not wanting to sound pushy. And there's the image that a lot of people have in their mind that a real good salesperson is pushy and slick, like the car salesman, or like that movie. Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it that had Jack Lemmon in it, where they were trying to sell. They just pushing for sales. And a lot of people, they don't want to feel that way, but they think that that's what a salesperson's required to be. Discomfort about talking about money. That can feel awkward. Not knowing what to say. You get up to somebody and you know what you can do, you know how you can help them, but you're not exactly sure, how to put that into words. Imposter syndrome. I know that I've been guilty of this. Even as I got more and more successful, I'd still always have this nagging fear in the back of my mind that maybe I'm just not qualified to be able to help people, with something that they want on their yard. But the fact is, I would have to sit down when I was feeling that way and look at the pluses and minuses. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And if my strengths are, a little bit more than what the weakness are, I shouldn't feel an imposter syndrome. Okay. And sometimes you've got to remind yourself of that. Handling objections can feel like conflict. Hang on a second. I accidentally didn't mean to click that. Um, Believing that salesy people are dishonest. And again, that comes back to the image of what a lot of people think salesmen are. Not being clear on your own process. That can be very, very disastrous. You need to understand what your process is, and you need to have certain things in place. And we will go ahead and get to that in just a moment, a little further down on here, about how your sales process, some things that you should have in it. Fear of overpromising and under-delivering. That's a very real fear, and this is where you have to be realistic about yourself, about what you can do. Have realistic timelines. I would always say on projects that I had. Now, of course, in Florida, we were always dealing with the rain, so it was a great thing to add into any of my bids. But I would figure out how long is this project going to take? And then I would add, a few extra days for purchasing the materials, getting things in place. And let's say I figured everything out and I said, we can begin within 10 business days because I knew I had other work lined up and I knew I had to get materials. We can begin within 10 business days. The project will take 14 days, weather permitting, and then I would just leave it at that. So, I'm not overpromising on, my timeline. I'm being very realistic, and it's known there right up front that people know what they can expect, okay? And that weather permitting, I would suggest I don't care where in the country you are. Weather is the one factor that we always fight against. Okay, so the number one mistake that landscapers make in selling. Well, let's first talk about what sales isn't. It's not about convincing somebody to buy. And many think that selling is about talking people into something that they don't necessarily want. The reality is a great salesperson finds out what the end goal is for their customer and then matches the service to it. And you'll notice that what we're doing is we're not trying to push any of our services on them. We're first going to discover. Okay. It's not just about the lowest price. And some people believe that the cheapest bid wins. It doesn't if you're showing value. Okay, if you're giving them trust and reliability. And so some of this comes to your reputation. Okay, if you've got a whole bunch of one stars, you're probably not going to be able to sell people on a higher price. But if you've got a good reputation, then your higher price is definitely warranted. But it's also in the way that you are going to present things to people so that they understand what the value is of what you are giving them. It's not about talking the most. Okay. Sometimes it's better just to shut up and listen. And we'll go into that a little bit more also further down. It's not about being pushy or aggressive. The best sales process feels natural. It's a discovery process with people. It's understanding what they need, what they want. It's not just about closing the deal. Okay, yes, you want to close the deal if it's the right fit for you and if you are the right fit for them. So those two things have to happen first. They need to be the right fit for you. You need to be the right fit for them. And then you're closing the deal by giving them the thing that they need. And sometimes I'm going to tell you, they don't really know what they need, which is why you're going to explore, you're going to listen, and then you are going to match the best thing for them. Okay. It's not just about the features. It's not just about, well, I have this premier lawn service and I take care of, mowing at all these different times. And then I do your bush trimming, I treat your weeds, I do this, I do that, and so on and so forth. What you're really offering them is solving a problem for them. Okay. Now I want to give an example here. This is back in 2008. It's right before the crash. For some of you may be too young to really know what I'm talking about. But it devastated the economy. Prior to that crash happening, I kept hearing from some people that, I trusted that the economy was about ready to crash. Now, at first I poo-pooed it. I'm like, no, 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 no. Everything's going great. But then I started to see little warning signs that maybe what I was being told made sense. And I realized at that point that, me just trying to sell lawn mowing to people wasn't necessarily going to be the way for me to continue to succeed. Who would need my service? That's the first question I had to ask, right? Well, I'm in Florida. So senior citizens can't be out mowing the lawn without risk of killing themselves in the middle of the summer. Okay, just a lot of them can't handle the heat anymore. People that still have a job want to keep their job if the economy goes bad because they've got to work whenever they need to work. It's just the reality of things. So people that wanted to keep their job, or people that were senior citizens, and people that lived in homeowners associations, because the homeowners association is not going to care whether your lawn is mowed or not. They're going to fine you. So I changed how I promoted my service, how I market it, and who I marketed it to. I started marketing to people that were in predominantly older neighborhoods with senior citizens and homeowner association neighborhoods. And then what I sold them on is you are going to be able to live your life and do the things you need to do to be able to survive. And I'm going to take this off your plate. Okay. So I was solving a problem for them. I wasn't selling them lawn service. I was selling them the freedom of mind that the senior citizen who was on a fixed income and was probably going to fare the depression, the recession a little bit better, wasn't going to need to worry about mowing their yard. And the person who was worried about working and being able to feed their family wouldn't have to worry about also, oh my God, what if I fall behind on my yard? And I actually saw my business increase while other people were struggling because I positioned a problem and I solved it. Okay. Sales isn't about winning every job. You'll hear me say this over and over again. Not everybody's a good fit for you. Not every customer is for you, and you're not for every customer. Okay. So you want to kind of weed out some of these people before you even go meet them. Okay. You don't have to get into a long-winded, what are you looking for, da 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 da, but you want to kind of understand if they're looking for a service or a solution that you actually provide. You don't want to waste your time going out to somebody if you don't do irrigation who really wants to talk about irrigation problems they're having in their yard. So pre-qualify your clients, right, by getting a general idea of what they're looking for. And then the other thing is ask them if they're the person that makes the decision. A lot of times um, well, usually it falls into one of two ways. The person calling you is the person who can make the decision, or the person calling you has to refer to the other partner, the other spouse, to make the decision. If it is a two-person that needs to make a decision, try and get them both there at the same time. Okay? That way, you're not having to try and follow up or re-explain things all over again to somebody else, or rely on the one spouse to explain things, muck it up, and now you've entirely lost your job. So pre-qualify by, are they looking for a service that you provide? And are the decision makers going to be there? Those two things at the minimum should be done. Okay. You don't want to create too much friction, but a little bit of friction so you're not wasting your time. Okay. So, your mindset shift. Selling isn't about tricking people into hiring you. It's about helping them to make a great decision. And when it's done right, both you and the customer are going to win. So that's how I want you to frame your sales when you're going out to people. Think of it as a consultation, really, a free consultative approach of your landscaping services versus a transactional mindset. Okay. Does anybody have any questions right now? You can unmute your mics and just ask them. Nothing? Okay. So, real example, a real example of a mistake that costs landscapers sales and how to avoid it. First, we're going to start with the pre-bid suggestion. Okay. If you have services that you are normally selling to people, I don't care if you're doing it in a bill book or if you do it, with an app or whatever it is, have some of those services preset. Now, I'm not saying the prices, and like, don't show up there knowing all the price of what they want, but have some of that stuff in a system or in a bill book already that you can just fill in the numbers that need to be filled in. Why? Because it's far easier to get somebody to say yes if while you're talking to them and you're getting to the point of understanding what they want and providing them with a solution that you can then provide them, the completed bid. Now, that's not always going to work. But in the instances where it can be done, have it preset. So you have your conversation with them, and then you're able to step away and say, give me about whatever you think it's going to take, 20 minutes to measure and put everything in, 15 minutes, whatever. And, even if it's half an hour, give me half an hour and I'll come back and we can discuss this. And you've got everything already set up. Okay. And you can just boom, 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 put it together. I had so many different templates that I could just drag and drop when I was using Jobber. But even before that, when I had my bill book, I had certain things that I was just able to go ahead and, like copy and paste. Okay. Um, and the copy and paste. Jesus, I'm okay. Stamp. I had a stamp. Boom. For some of the things, and boom, boom, boom. I was able to make it. But you want to have it preset. Okay. So, but here's the mistake that a lot of people make, and it's talking about pricing too soon. Now, it's very easy to fall into this trap. Let's suppose that we are talking to a customer and they want a patio. And they're telling you, what they want. They saw something down the street from the neighbors. You go, you take a look at it, and then immediately they want to know, well, what's that going to cost? If you start giving them a number right then and there without any type of structure, without qualifying where that number comes from, without showing them the value in the work that you're going to do and how long it's going to last and how good it's going to look, very good possibility that they're just going to blanch and say, forget it, right? And you've lost them before you've even talked about it. Okay, so if you feel awkward about pricing, and a couple of people had said that to me before this meeting, you do not want to rush to the price. Okay, you want to build the value, and you need to be comfortable with who you are and what you are bringing these people. Okay. And if you are comfortable with it and you believe in yourself, even if you've got that imposter syndrome that I said I've suffered and maybe some of you do, even if you have that, realistically, you have value and you deserve to be paid for it. So don't rush to talking about the price. Be confident that when you get there, they're going to be more than happy to pay it. Most of them. Okay. You do get your tire kickers, but most of them. Okay. A lot of times customers don't understand what goes into pricing. Now, I had, one of the people in this group reach out to me today. He was asking me about pricing a job and everything like that. One of the questions I asked him was, did you work in the delivery of your materials? He's like, no. And he's like, well, I don't feel that I can go any higher than this point, $950 for this job. And I'm like, well, then put it at 950, but add an extra 100 for the delivery because you said it'd take you 15 minutes to pick this stuff up and bring it there, but you should still get, you got wear and tear on your vehicle. You should still get an hour's worth of labor. right, for doing that. Well, he added that in as a separate line item after he had told the person everything that he was going to do, and he closed the job. Okay, they didn't even blink. I believe he probably could have gotten a little bit more, but he was not feeling very good right at this point. Okay, he wasn't feeling very confident. So just that little nudge, okay, of explaining the value to the customer. I'm going to go pick up all this stuff. It's going to be here. I'm going to be able to do the work. Da 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 da. And he added a little bit of value there. But once a customer hears a number without context, they just shut down, just like I'd said earlier. You want to start with discovery. Instead of jumping to the price, you want to ask questions like, what's important to you about this project? How do you want to use this space? Have you seen any designs that you like? And then you want to educate before you quote to the person. Okay. Now you've got to be careful how you ask these questions because if you don't phrase it the right way, or if your tone isn't in the right way, um, it can almost come off as dismissive, right? What's important to you about this project? Well, if I say, well, what's important to you about this project? Now it sounds like I'm going, this is ridiculous. I don't even want to do it, right? But if you say to them, can you tell me why this project's so important to you? What do you envision? What are you hoping to achieve? Okay, how do you want to use this space, like it says? Okay, you want to ask these questions and let them start to give you more information. Okay. As they give you more information and you repeat it back to them and you explain a little bit about how you can help with that, you're building confidence and trust and begin to understand that you're not just trying to sell them on a patio. You're selling them on the living space that they've dreamed of. Or, as has happened to me sometimes, that the spouse has dreamed of, but then they have the other spouse go out, and do the actual bidding for it. But you are fulfilling a need or a dream, a want that they have, and you do that by exploring and asking open-ended questions. Anchoring the price with value. Okay, instead of saying, this is going to cost 10,000, you would want to say the things for a patio that's long lasting with the types of materials that you're discussing and that's going to have the two-tiered approach. We're looking at, around $10,000. But some of that, is dependent on the material choices. Okay. Now you've kind of phrased it in a way that, gives them an idea of why their value is there. And then we'll talk a little bit more about ways that anchoring with some other tactics can go ahead and help you get to that sale. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. So we'll come here. The fix in action. You ask the homeowner what they envision. They describe hosting family barbecues and relaxing after work. You say, that's great. I want to make sure that we create a patio that fits your need and lasts for decades. And when they ask about price, you're going to say, we have different options based on the durability, the materials, the style, okay, for a long lasting quality. So when they're asking about that price, you're still going to tell them you're not quite at the point to give them the price, but you're giving them considerations. And if they really press you, after you've given them the things that are going to go into making that decision, then you can get to an approximate cost. What I'm saying to do, though, is avoid just dumping that price on them without any context. Okay. Now, I am using patios right now as an example, but this can work for your lawn maintenance. This can work for cleanup jobs. This can work for landscape and sod installations. And if you do irrigation, it can work for that. My thing has always been to ask questions and shut up. Okay. And that's where we're going to get to now. Okay. But what is going to be the result of framing things this way? Instead of customers reacting to the raw number, they're going to feel your genuineness and your concern and your thoughtfulness for their project seeping through the entire conversation. That's going to build trust. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to close the deal for you, but it does mean that you're going to get further along in the process. And a lot of times, people do not make decisions for purchasing based on the price. They make it on the relationship. And I'll give you one really good example. Apple. So many people will buy that because of the status that they feel it gives them. That's a relationship thing. Their relationship with other Apple owners. For those of you who can remember Saturns, the cars, they built a whole persona around Saturn owners. Owning a Saturn, you'd like wave at other Saturn. I know because my dad had bought a Saturn and he started waving at all sorts of random people because they had created that relationship between Saturn owners. And so it wasn't about price. Saturns weren't the cheapest cars, they weren't the most expensive. They certainly weren't top of the line, but they weren't low end. But they'd created that culture. And so this is what you're trying to do, the culture of your company and the relationship that you're going to have with your customers. Okay? Okay. So sell the outcome, not just the service. Okay? That's what you want to do. Price should always follow the value in the conversation. Never lead. So now we're going to talk about structuring consultations to convert more leads. Okay. First impressions are what build trust. You want to guide the conversation towards value and you want to transition to your recommendation naturally. In other words, you just don't want to jump into it. Okay. So presenting your landscaping or hardscaping estimates with confidence. Well, I actually want to back up a moment. I think that I've kind of skipped a little point here. Yeah. We're going to go back to okay. So I don't have a PowerPoint slide for this. So I'm just going to walk through this, and you guys are probably going to have to take notes, or you can come back to the point that this is in. I'll try and include it in the YouTube video, at least the notes written down for everybody. This is what a typical sales call would look like for me. I would arrive at the house. I would be professionally dressed. I had my shirt. I had my logo, right? It was a polo shirt, had my logo there. I had my truck, had the signs on it. Pull up to the house. I had a measuring wheel with me, always, and a notebook. Okay, so I looked the part. I had two business cards. Nowadays, some people are using the dots that they wear on, that they can pass, but I always had two business cards. Knock on the door, they answer. Hello, Miss Smith. I'm Dan with, blah, blah, blah. You know, I understand that you were, okay. Let me preface this by, let's say that this call is somebody that told me that they were interested in sod. Okay. So I would say, hello, Miss Smith. I'm Dan. I understand that you have concerns about your lawn. How can I help you? And then shut up. Don't talk. Let them start to tell you. You'll notice I didn't say, I understand you want your sod replaced. I didn't narrow myself down to one field. I understand that you have problems with your lawn. Now let them tell me what they need. Okay? Because in the course of conversation, I could find out that it's not the entire lawn that needs to be replaced. It's just one area. Or I could find out that this is the third time that they've replaced the lawn, and every year it keeps dying. And then further inspection by me reveals they've got terrible drainage down in the area. Okay. So I'm going to let them talk. I'm going to listen. Once they are through, I'm going to repeat back to them what they said. Oh, so just so I understand, this is the third time you're going to have to replace the lawn in 5 years. And what's happening with it? I can see what's happening with it right now, but what did it look like just a couple of months ago? And what had happened the past, other times? And then let them tell me that. Now we're getting to the root of maybe what the problem is. Maybe they do have drainage, right? And that drainage is leading to fungus. And then the fungus is leading them to think, because it looks brown, that the yard is, not getting enough water, so they're overwatering. So now I can ask them other questions. Okay, so when you saw it turning brown, what did you do? Well, I upped the water. Okay, now I can educate. Now I can go, actually, that's not really the best thing to do. Not every time that your lawn is brown Does it mean that it's not getting enough water? The best way to tell whether or not it's not getting enough water is to actually go down to it and lightly step on it. And if you hear it crackle, that means it's dry. But if it's moving very easily, or if you're seeing, and I can discuss different types of fungus, then that might indicate a fungus or a drainage issue, right? So what we need to do is we need to figure out the drainage issue. Now, what I'm doing is I'm telling them how I can solve this problem so they're not having to go for a fourth time to have their lawn replaced. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody so far? Yeah? Okay. So it comes down to the listening, okay? And then asking clarifying questions about what's going on. Now, if you're new and you don't know all this stuff, it's okay. You're going to learn on the fly. But what you are not going to do is you are not going to tell people that you have an answer that you don't know the answer to yet. You're going to be honest with them. This is curious. I need a little time after we're done to go, when I get back to my truck and research on some of the resources that I have, what could be causing this. And then you want to educate yourself, okay? There's no harm in telling people you don't know the answer. Okay. And you don't want to sell people on something that isn't going to solve the solution because that's how you go from a 5-star to a 1-star company. Okay. So don't be afraid if, I'm giving you an example here and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to flunk, the first 5 times I go out to a call with somebody needing this specific thing because I don't know anything. Educate yourself, but be willing to say, I'm not quite sure yet, but give me a little bit and I'm going to get the answer. Okay. So then now that you've got all these answers, you're going to transition to your recommendation naturally. You're going to say to them, okay, Miss Smith, so I'm understanding, with the problems that we've have here, and it looks like what we've got is a drainage issue. So one of the first things that we need to do is we're going to need to install some stone down in this area probably because this is the lowest point where the water's standing, and then we can build French drains to drive it down into other areas. So you're going to come up with a solution generally, right? You're not tying yourself to anything yet. Generally, when I'm looking at this is what I think we're going to do. Then after that, we can go ahead and tear out this grass and put in the new grass and then, adjust the irrigation so that it's watering the right amount of time that it needs. And then what we're going to do is monitor it over the next 6 months. And that way we can make sure that the drainage issue is taken care of and that the irrigation's properly covering everything. Does that sound, like something um, that's going to help you? And now they're like, yes, and even if they go, well, how much is that going to cost? Well, give me a few minutes, and I can go back and work it on my truck. But does that generally sound like, the solution you're looking for? Get them to, don't hound them, right? If they won't say yes, don't just keep going. Is it, is it, is it? But try and get them to the point where they recognize that what you are recommending is the thing that they need for two reasons. One, you want to make sure that you've understood all the problems, right? Because they may go, oh, I forgot about my back, in this area that, I've had problems with or something. Now you got something else to add on there. But the other part is by getting them to affirm what you are saying means that they are trusting you. Okay. And that's going to go a long way when you are closing. And that's the same even if you're doing lawn maintenance, right? And you're giving them 3 different options, 3 tiers of lawn maintenance, and you're talking with them about the concerns that they'd had and stuff like that. You want to confirm that what you're offering. I'll give a good example. And I think that some of you that have been in this business long enough have probably had this happen. Somebody calls, they say they want a lawn maintenance bid. You go out there. Now, I would typically, same thing. How can I help you? Well, I want to get lawn mowing. Okay. Have you ever, used lawn maintenance before? If they say no, okay. So what is it that you're looking for? Are you just too busy or how can I help you? Right. But if they say that they've used the lawn service, say, you currently have somebody? Yes. Why are you not, what's your problem with them? Or, why are you deciding to go someplace else? Let them tell you. And a lot of times this is what I'll hear. Well, they're just, I'm, I'm paying them $100 a month. This is like long time ago price, right? But I'm paying them $100 a month, and they never get the edging done. Okay, well, I can guarantee you that the edging gets done every time, because we have a quality program and then we do these checks and then we have inspections that are done. So that's not going to be an issue. Now you work up the price and you tell them, okay, it's going to be 135 a month. Well, what? I'm paying $100, for this other person. Well, now you already have the answer, right? Yeah, but you just told me you're not happy with that service because they don't do the edging every time. And we're going to make sure that not only is the edging done every time, but we come every week. And we also do the weed eating, and we're going to do follow-ups with maintenance, management inspections to make sure that our properties are at the quality that we're used to, right? So when you're talking to somebody, asking these questions can give you the ability to rebut their objections later on, okay? And it's not in a pushy way. You're just reminding them of something that they said, okay? So, how does that sound to everybody? Does that sound like the type of conversation you can have where you're asking questions and trying to find the solution for them?
Yeah.
Anybody? Anybody have any questions or, experiences that they want to share at this point? Okay. Give me a second here. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I was just trying to look at the chats here. Um, okay. So the psychology of it. You want to avoid price shock. Okay. And with anything that you have, your lawn maintenance pricing might actually be higher than other people around you. So it could be shocking to them if they see it. You want to have an anchoring strategy in every type of quote that you're doing. You want to present with confidence and you want to understand, again, the power of silence. Okay. So if we are avoiding price shock, there's tiered pricing and there's anchoring, and usually these two work together. Instead of just giving one price, you want to offer three tiers. Okay. A low, a mid, and a premium. And that's going to do three things. It's going to anchor the price. They're going to focus on the choices rather than just the number. So, in other words, with lawn maintenance, if you're saying, I've got a basic service, I come every week, all I do is mow, edge, weed eat, and blow. I've got this monthly service, and you get a little bit of extra with it. I've got this premium, I take care of everything. Okay. So now you're telling them, and this is where with having it preset with templates, everything all described and stuff like that, you just go ahead and can present it to people. Okay, you can just drop it right into the quote. This gives the client a sense of control. And when they feel that they have control over where they're spending their money and you're not trying to cram something down there, they feel a lot more comfortable with you, right? You don't want to lose that comfort because if you're turning this person into a client, that you've spent money to get there. You spent time to get there, right? You want this person to deal with you on and on and on. So you don't want to do anything that makes them feel like they've got no control. It needs to be give and take and not the perception of give and take. It truly is a give and take. Okay. You're winning, they're winning. And it's not at the cost of, anybody's feelings or ego or anything like that. Doing this gives you a greater chance to upsell, okay? Because people will normally not pick the lowest level service. They'll pick the medium or the higher. So what does that tell you? If I'm setting up my lawn maintenance, okay, and let's say, I know that my hourly price needs to be at $100, okay? And I'm offering three levels of service. And I know that job's going to take, half an hour as a basic. I'm setting that at, my half an hour price plus, my little bit of margin on top of it, for drive time and stuff like that. So maybe I'm setting it at 55. I'm setting the other two prices higher than that. Yes, there's the increased time, but I can even set them higher than the increased time plus my margins. Okay, because I've set that base and nobody's going to choose that. I won't say nobody, but most people won't. They're either going to go with your mid level or your higher level. Okay, so you'd set at 50 and then say the other thing is going to take you 45 minutes. Don't go to 75. Instead, go to 80 or 82, right? And then the other service would take you, a full hour. That's at the 100, but don't go to 100. Go to 115 or 120. Okay, they're not going to take that bottom one. They're going to pick one of those two. If you've built the relationship with them and you're assuring them that you're fulfilling the need that they have, that price is going to be a lot easier to get past them. Okay. So you're doing the tiered pricing and anchoring. This is used everywhere. You see it in restaurants. You see it again with Apple. So the example I put in here was a tomahawk steak, one of my favorite steaks. But I'm not always going to spend the $95 for it. So when I'm sitting down and having dinner, maybe I'll spend the 45 because I'm like, well, boy, tomahawk, that just seems really expensive today. But the ribeye doesn't, I'll go ahead and do that. Right. So I'm not getting like a low cut of beef. I'm still getting a good cut of beef. Right. But that's because they anchored it. They showed me value in there. And you can use this same strategy in your landscaping. Do we understand how tiered and anchoring is working and what I mean by this? Okay. You want to present with confidence. Okay. You want to speak with certainty and professionalism. Whether you're new or whether you've been in the business 15 years, you know your business. And what you don't know, you're going to learn, right? So if you don't know the answer, but you know you're going to learn it, you can be confident when you tell somebody, I have this. I can take care of this for you. Okay. Don't tell them that you can do something you've never done before and never studied. Okay. I'm talking about things that, you've learned a little bit, right? But maybe you're still nervous about. You can still have the confidence because you're a professional and you know that you're going to go home and you're going to brush up on whatever, technique you feel you may be short on, to be able to do that. And I'll give an example here. I had gotten into hardscaping. I was felt very confident in it, but then one day I had a customer come and tell me that they wanted travertine put on their existing back porch. I had to quick go look up what travertine was, but once I got the feel for it, I'm like, okay, I can learn this in the next 2 weeks before I need to do the job, right? Because I already knew I was 2 weeks out. So I was confident. I'm like, yes, I can do this for you, but I need a little bit of time to go back and work up the pricing because travertine, is there's so many different varieties and I want to get some samples for you. I bought myself time. I was confident about what I could do because I knew I could learn travertine. Okay. Body language. Look people in the eye. Don't go to jobs wearing sunglasses and keep them on. Okay. Take them off. Look people in the eyes. I think everybody's, had some man in their life tell them that, when you greet somebody, you look them in the eye, you give them a firm handshake. I know COVID got a lot of us away from handshakes. That's fine. I don't have a problem with giving or not giving a handshake or doing the elbow bump. I do have a problem dealing with people that won't look me in the eye or wear sunglasses. And so if I've got that problem, I guarantee you that there's a large segment of the population out there that still has that problem. So when you show up, your body language is important. You want to project that confidence, but you also want to project the openness that comes with somebody being able to see your eyes. Okay, it's primal. And understanding that is important. Word choice. Own your pricing and avoid weak language. Okay. So if somebody says that's a lot on a price, you go, yeah, I know it can seem expensive. No, good Lord, no. Don't do that. Right? Don't talk yourself out of a job. Use your word choice. Yeah, I know it can seem that way, but let's look at and then start to talk about what's going into that price. How did that price come up? Right? The person that I was talking to today that was afraid that they couldn't get to where I was telling them at least their minimum needed to be, was, well, I really need the work. Okay, you need the work, but be confident that what you're giving them is important, and your time to go pick up materials is important, so you should be paid for it, right? So add it as a separate line item so they understand where that price is coming from, right? Yeah, I'm going to do all this work for X number of dollars, and the delivery is this. Boom, now you got yourself up to where you needed to be, minimum. Okay. So your word choice and how you do it and how you phrase things, how you put things into your proposal are very important. Okay. Power of silence. You can talk too much, as I talk for however many minutes we've been here now, 45 minutes, right? You can talk too much. People do not like silence. So when it comes to the point of showing them the price and you're showing them three-tiered plan, right? And you go, okay, I got 15,000. Well, this is everything that we're going to do, 10,000 this and 5,000 we're going to do for that, and you've explained everything and then you let them look at it. I guarantee you one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to go, oh, screw that, and they're just going to walk in the door and the meeting's done, right? Or they're going to voice an objection, and the objection does not mean go away. The objection means this is what's concerning me, or a hint at what's concerning me. Okay? Be silent. Let them speak. And then pause after they finish saying what they're saying and frame how you are going to respond to it. Don't be in a rush, right? That's that pushy salesman. Oh, yeah, well, I know, but look at this. It's got this tire and it's got this airbag and it's got this, it's got that. Don't do that. Let them voice their objection, pause, think about what they're really saying, and then you're going to give your response. And your response isn't going to be, something like over explaining or justifying, and it's not going to be insulting, right? You're not going to say, well, why don't you want to spend that amount of money? Why are you wasting my time coming out here? No. What you're going to do is you're going to be silent, you're going to listen, you're going to frame your response before you give it to them. And it's just going to be a simple response of what it is. Okay. You're going to state the price with confidence and then be quiet. Okay. So the common objections are price, timing, and the decision maker. Now, number three here, hopefully you are able to set up a process so that you are able to make sure that both decision makers or the decision maker is there when you're meeting with them. I've had numerous, when I first started out doing commercial clients, where I'd show up and I'd be meeting with the person that's not going to make that decision, and it's a waste of your time. Okay. It's fine for them to meet with the decision maker to meet with you and then turn you over to the person to show the specs for the job, so long as you are back in front of the decision maker when you are making the proposal. If you're sending the proposal to the person getting the specs for giving you the specs for the job, you're wasting your time. You want to be in front of the decision maker. And it's the same thing with a husband and wife, okay, or whatever the household is and the way it's set up. The decision maker or makers need to be there, okay? So we've got price, timing, and the decision maker. So price, common one. Well, that's too expensive, or I don't know, if it's, I didn't think it was going to be that much or whatever. Do not lower your price immediately. If you have done the work to know what your costs are and know what your margin needs to be, and you are a
Yeah.
quality person.
I got that way too loud. I'm sorry. No, it's all right.
Yep.
And yeah, it's unbelievable.
Okay. Um, if you are a quality person, okay, you should not be lowering your price because somebody's objecting. Remember, not every client is right for you. Okay. And you're not right for every client. So do not lower your price immediately. Don't say something, oh, yeah, it's a bit pricey. Because what are you doing? You're admitting that to them, right, what they think is that you're overcharging them or trying to gut them. You're not. You've got money that you need to make. That's why you're in business. So, you can tell them, and look, I understand investing in landscaping is not cheap, but let's look at what it is that we're offering here and why it is that way, and go through it again. And then maybe then, if they're, well, they might start talking about, do we have to do this or do, so on and so forth. And maybe a couple of things that they'd wanted come out, right? And now you suddenly move from like the premium top of the line to kind of the middle of the line. This is why I also say, have three options, right? Because then if they don't want it, all the premium stuff, you can at least get them down to the middle. And if it's a really in-depth project, you've got one of two options. You can either go back and say, okay, let's look a little bit where we can take some stuff out and still get you as close to the premium. Or what I found always worked for me, with people that, were budget conscious but still wanted that look, was I would do phases. Okay, look, why don't we do this in three phases? First, we're going to go ahead and create the patio area for you. And then, in a couple of months, when you got a little bit more money, then we're going to create the cooking area for you. And then a few months after that, when you're ready, we'll go ahead and put the pergola in. Just make sure that if you are doing something like that, like if you're setting it up in phases, you're not doing phase three before you do phase one. And then when you finally go, and have to do phase one, you got to tear out things for, phase three or something. For example, if you've got a pergola going over a patio, and part of the supports for the pergola need to be in the patio, you probably want to do the pergola first, right? And then build the patio around it in another phase. Okay. You don't want to be tearing up work that you've already done. Okay. But that's an option for you. You can consider doing phases on projects. And I found that that was very successful, with a certain type of clientele. And then I would be engaged with those clients sometimes for 2, 3 years at a time. Because once I'd finished like one project that was in three phases, well, while I'm like two-thirds of the way through phase two, they start thinking about another area in their yard, and then they start talking, and well, we're happy with Dan, and we always wanted to do this or that, or so on and so forth. Now, as you're finishing up that one thing, that hey, while you're here, I want to show you something else that I want. Okay. So if you break it up in that way and you're working with them and you're communicating with them, now you're building a longer term customer. Timing, I need to think about it, or you name it, anything that has to do with they're just not ready to make a decision yet. Don't say, well, okay, give me a call, or, okay, let me know. No, you may have to walk away from this bid, but you don't want to just give them some open-ended thing, right? What you want to find out is what they need to think about. What is it that, has them um concerned? Maybe it's the timeline, right? Like they just realized that their daughter's graduating at the time that we'd be doing the work. And so now they need to think, would we be able to work around that? Well, if somebody told me, well, I'm worried because at the point that you'd be in this project, it'd be my daughter's graduation and the yard would be muddy. Oh, okay. Well, then what if we did it this way? And maybe I could alter the project a little bit. Still, they're getting the same project, but the timeline, of what's being done when, so that that's not an issue. And I have done that before, and not necessarily with graduations, but we had a client, that was having a backyard wedding for their daughter. And so what we ended up doing was, um, getting in landscaping and not tearing out the existing grass, but getting all the landscaping in and stuff, and then going back in and tearing out the grass after the wedding was over. While the grass didn't look great, the yard certainly popped with the landscaping back there. It looked very fresh, fresh mulch and everything. And I had joked that I would take green spray paint and spray it all over the grass so at least it would look green back there. But, you know, understanding that the timing objection, it could, you don't know what it is unless you ask. Okay. I have to check with my spouse, okay, let me know what they say. No, you don't want the decision maker hearing what you are able to offer them as the solution to their problem secondhand, because I guarantee you the person that heard it will miss something, or won't have an answer to the objection, and the whole thing could peter out without you having any ability to interact and help with the decision making. So you really want to have the decision maker there. There's a number of times that I've pulled up to a property, both either a single homeowner or a couple, and this is, let's say, the single homeowner, and they're like, oh, I saw all these plants that were put in at my neighbor. Like if you go around the corner and you go ahead and take it, and I just think it's so adorable. I don't necessarily need those plants, but the color scheme and da 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 da, and I'd like to do something like that without looking exactly like them. Okay, great. So let's go take a walk. Let's look at it. And now we go over there and we take a walk, we take a walk, gives us a chance to talk about other things or more about, what they're interested in with their yard. Look at what they've got, give them suggestions, go back. Now I'm able to close it. Now, if I go to the same house or, a house like that, and the husband comes out and he says, oh, well, my wife saw this patio that the neighbors put in around the corner and stuff, and she'd really like something like, well, what does your wife like about it? Well, just its appearance. Well, is it just the appearance or the materials or the way it's laid out? He doesn't know. Or maybe he knows, but he doesn't know everything. So you really want to try and get the decision maker there, the person that's pushing this project and has the interest in it. You want them to be there. Okay. So, but common objections. If it does come that the decision maker is not able to be there, um, you want to understand as much as possible what the decision maker wants. And it could just be have the husband or the wife get the other person on the phone and talk with them. Okay. Um, Objections mean interest. People are not rejecting you. Okay. The key to closing more jobs is seeing objections as invitations to provide clarity and reassurance. And I think that that's very true. I know and some of you guys are going to experience this. All of you are going to experience this. Some people are just tire kickers. They think they want something until they get you out there, and then they want to nickel and dime you to death. Walk away. Just walk away. It's not worth it. Even if you need the money, I would spend my time trying to find the person that actually wants to pay me instead of the headache of dealing with somebody that wants to nickel and dime me to death. A great salesperson is going to see the objections as a buying signal. Look, they're not going to give you legitimate objections unless they're interested in buying. If they're not interested in buying, they're just going to go, no, that's too much, and just walk away. Or, no, you're not offering what I thought, and just walk away. If they're giving you objections, chances are they want to buy, but they need to understand what it is they're buying and justify it for themselves. Okay. So you need to be able to reframe things. Okay. The next thing is your follow-up strategy. Okay. Not everybody is going to bet. Well, let me pause for a second. You've talked to everybody. You understand what they want. You understand what their problems are. You've told them, yeah, I know, you got the drainage down here, you got the sod issues like we were talking about before. Now you go back to your truck. You've got everything all set up where you can go ahead. Okay, I need to take measurements. How many square feet? How many linear feet? How much rock am I going to need? Da 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 da. You get all that stuff. You put it into the computer. You've got your proposal set up where you're just dropping and putting each of those things in there, right? It's got your contract at the end, the agreement that they're going to sign, what the deposit amount is. Do that if you can. Do it while you're at the job, okay? Because they're ready to buy now. Maybe they need to look at it and think about it. Maybe they're getting other bids. Okay, that's fine. But you want to give them the information as quickly as you can. So if you can do it while you're at the job, do it. I would always set aside 2.5 hours for any estimate. I didn't care if it was lawn maintenance or, hardscaping or landscaping or irrigation installation. I set aside 2.5 hours. I always figured that the first half hour was exploratory with them, and the rest of it was getting the measurements and going ahead and putting everything together and then talking with them at the end. And if it went less time than that, great. I had other things, believe me, that I could go do. Okay. But if it took, 2 hours and 20 minutes and I'd only set aside an hour and a half to do it. Well, now I got work when I get home, right? And I'm not at the job and maybe I forgot a measurement or maybe I forgot a key aspect of that job that I didn't write down in my notebook, right? And now I'm trying to figure it out. It's the worst. So if you can, do it there, right? And talk to the person and then try and close it at that point. Okay. That's really my uh my way of trying to do it. Now, sometimes I'd have to go back, and say it's going to take me a little bit of time. But you got to be honest with them, right? This is going to take me about 2 days to do. I've had projects like that, right? I would call them McMansions out, in west of Orlando, these giant houses that are on a postage stamp, right? But they've got, these gorgeous yards, for what little yard that they had. They want, complete makeover. That's not generally something you can sit down and do in 2.5 hours because you got things you got to tear out, work around pools, so on and so forth. So if I knew it was going to take time, I'd give them realistic. It's just going to take me 2 days. Today's Tuesday. I'll have it to you by close of business on Thursday, and then do it. Have it to them at that point or earlier, right? Um, there was something else I did that I was thinking about with. Oh, you guys will hear this. I, I've called. I've had 3 companies out here to do bids, and they always tell me that they're going to get me the estimate, and then they never do. Right? So if you're doing the estimate right on the spot, sometimes that's just it, right? You're like the only person that's actually following through. You've just, gained like 1,000 points with them because you're serious. You're doing it. Okay. So that's my suggestion on that. Um, Follow up. If you have to follow up, set the expectation for follow up. Let them know, okay, I'll be following up in 3 or 4 days, right? If I would send somebody a bid, it would always include on there, that I would be checking in within 3 days, even if I was getting ready to close that job right then and there. That way, at least when they're reading the bid, they also knew, right? And then before I left them, I'd tell them, I'll give you a call in 3 days. Okay. There is the 3 touch follow-up method. Okay. And you do a friendly check on the first week. You add value on your check-in 2 to 3 weeks later. And 1 to 2 months later, this you give them the last chance offer. I typically have on the bottom of all my proposals, this proposal is good from 30 days of the date at the top. Okay. And I'd follow up in 3 days. I'd follow up at the 1 week part. And then um, after that, uh, yeah, give me a second, Will. And then after that, um, right before it would close out on that 30 days, I'd let them know, hey, we're coming up on the 30 days. I just wanted to check and see if you had any other questions, and let them know, or I'm going to close this out. Okay. That's if you can't get them on the phone. If you can get them on the phone, you just want to be asking questions. Where are you at in this process? Will, I would not follow up more than 3 times, really. And so a friendly, hey, I'm checking in because and a lot of times at that point, the person's going to say, I went with somebody else, or we're ready, or we need a few more days because we're trying to, and they'll tell you something like move money or, arrange something with somebody in our family so that, they can watch our dogs or so on and so forth. They'll give you a hint right back to it's not the objection, but they'll communicate with you. And maybe they were afraid to call you because they weren't ready to give you the deposit check at that point. Okay. So that's your first checkup, and then the second one, you do want to talk about the value. Hey, I was calling, to see, where you're at because we are getting ready to move back into the season. And if we can get this drainage problem taken care of now, we'll be able to better evaluate as we're in the rainy season how things are going instead of having to wait till next year, right? You're giving them some value there. You don't want to be begging them for the job. You want to be showing them by how them working with you is going to solve their problem, and you are going to, you are it. You're their solution. Okay. Um, Automate and systemize your follow-ups, and so step one and step two are basically just putting stuff in your calendar. If you've got more advanced systems, some type of CRM, Jobber, even QuickBooks has some add-ons that you can do for this. You can go ahead and follow up with people after they send you stuff through email, text, or it can send a reminder to your phone, hey, call this person, or you can personalize it depending on the individual. Okay. Automation, I am a firm believer in it. There are a number of things that I set up that once it's set up, I don't have to worry about it for like 3 or 4 weeks at a time. And then I just go in and check it, when I get to about that 2.5, 3 week period and see how it's going. So if you can automate it, I would. The fortune is in the follow-up. Not everybody's going to hire you. Not everybody's a good fit. You're not a good fit for everybody. They're not a good fit for you. But if you think that somebody is a good fit for you and you think you're a good fit for them, sometimes just following up is the final step that they need. Some people actually just want to see if, you are professional enough to actually follow through on everything that you say. Okay? Okay. So that's what I've got on that. Does anybody have any questions more that they would like to ask? No? Okay. So anybody that came in after I'd started just at the beginning, I had said that we got two. One, next week's webinar is going to be on leadership. The speaker, my guest, is going to be Mark Danderson. He has many years of leadership experience and also taught it as a professor in his later years. He and I are pretty good friends. I'm excited to have a conversation with him. Whether you're a small company with nobody but yourself or you're growing, leadership is something that you want to learn. You can exert influence in your personal life. You can exert influence in your business. Your leadership can help shape your company just with your customers. So I think that that'll be a very good webinar for you to attend. I am starting a weekly little, I guess, coffee clatch, we'll call it. That'll be every Friday from 6 to 6:30. You guys can come on. We'll all share, put our videos on here so we can look at each other while we're talking. We're going to share wins and challenges. If you have specific challenges, you can either post it in the event or you can email me. My email is in the event. And then, I will address the ones that I'm able to. And we can just kind of, talk about our week and work towards success together. And then a final reminder, I don't know how many of you may have seen it in the group. I do have a few openings for my mentorship. If you are interested, just click on the link to go to the application and then we can get a meeting set up. I work on everything in your business from your marketing to your pricing to helping you with confidence, team building, hiring. Basically, what I do is I meet with you. We set your goal for the year. We set your goal for that quarter. We set your goal for that first month. And then every 2 weeks, you and I will meet one-on-one virtually, and we will go through where you're at. We'll fine tune because, like I said, every plan is just that, a plan. It always needs, fine tuning. So if you are interested in some help on that, by all means, go ahead and just click on the link that is in the group, and I will, as a matter of fact, I'll drop it in here for you. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in uh, the comment section of the video. Okay. So anything else, guys? No? Well, thank you very much. You all have a good day. Okay. And hope to see some of you on Friday. Take care.